with Bajaj Auto. Let's understand from him that how is he viewing the way things are moving up. Mr. Sharma, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm
Good
looking
morning.
at comments which have come from your peer Hero Motocorp. If I look at comments which have come from Dabur a few days ago, and now we're getting indications from even companies like Asian Paints that, and even RBI yesterday for that matter, that rural demand is making a comeback. What is your understanding of the way the two-wheeler market in India is shaping up and will shape up for 2023?
Well, overall, post the Diwali festive, indeed, demand in general is coming back. It's being driven by, in our understanding, the urban and semi-urban areas foremost, and rural is also compared to its previous performance, improved its performance, and but it is trailing the urban revival.
The auto dispatch numbers, sir, and I'm looking at the monthly numbers which you report, and I'm going from June. The base was at 3.5. Because of Diwali Dashera, it went to almost 4. But in the month of November, it plummeted back to 3. So, what is the normal baseline? If you take all the festival season impact, what do you think is the normal baseline for Bajaj Auto dispatch numbers?
Well, foremost, we look at it in a different way, which is different in two aspects. Firstly, we really don't look at dispatch numbers so and so because to understand the industry and our own performance, because these are all geared to a certain strategy which one might have regarding the channel stocks and what level of channel stocks which you need. The real number to look at is the retail number. And we are more and more relying on the government database, which is quite up to date and almost completely comprehensive, which is available on publicly on Vahan. So to understand industry and our own performance, competitive performance, we base our analysis on Vahan data. Secondly, there is no point comparing in this period month on month because the Diwali is shifted by 10 days and it creates a very big movement. And this time the movement of Diwali dates was over the month end dates. So again, to understand both performance and industry, it's better to look at October plus November as a whole, as one block. So when we look at October plus November and we look at the retail data, we find that there is a good substantial improvement in the industry. And that improvement is driven by the top half of the industry, which is 125cc plus segment. That has grown at twice the rate of what the bottom half has grown. And when we look at our own performance, it has been our focus since the last 1 year to have a more vigorous presence and action in the top half of the industry. And we have grown at twice the rate in retail terms over what the top half of the industry has grown. Obviously, that would lead to some kind of improvement in market share.
Rakesh, we are in a high interest rate scenario, and as of yesterday as well, there was a 35 bips hike which was announced by the central bank. Many banks are already upping their lending rates. Are you worried that that's going to impact sentiment in any which way?
No, not really. These increases do not translate and trickle down to the retail finance in a very substantive way to dampen demand. The demand actually on a medium term basis is being driven by very different drivers, and those are things like the demographic, the under-penetration in many areas of motorcycles, the improvement in the roads, etc., and of course the general uptick in the economy in the post-COVID period. And furthermore, the penetration of retail finance itself is there is a lot of scope to grow, and given all the improvements in the database and the ability of retail financiers to assess risk in many areas where there is no income proof as well. There are many parameters on which they can now assess risk, means that the retail finance penetration again has got a very good headroom for growth. So when you put all these things together, this increase will not go towards dampening or dampening the demand. The demand is going to be driven in the short term more by larger economic factors and the how the people are seeing the next few months, their interpretation of the economic outlook and the impact on their own salaries and continued employment and a continuous stream of earnings.
Which also is becoming a bit of a challenge. But anyway, what I wanted to understand is that at least in the last quarter or the first half of the year that we saw is the big contribution to your numbers came in from three-wheelers, from premium bikes. I wanted to understand how the entry-level bikes are doing and whether you see them actually scale up and see any improvement in the next foreseeable future.
Though I would just, counter your very brief and early comment. I personally, what we are picking up from our dealerships and talking to customers directly is that there is a optimistic outlook on the certainty of income. It is a bit of a change from what it was 6 months ago. So that's healthy. So I wouldn't say that people are not optimistic about the future. That, in fact, is the single largest reason why people have decided to purchase, because the purchase of motorcycles in the end is a bit of a discretionary thing. You can always postpone the purchase. But so when the outlook is pessimistic, people tend to say that, okay, I've got this bike for 3 years, let me postpone it to 4th year. But when it's optimistic, people want to consummate the decision. But coming back to the main question which you asked, the entry-level 100cc bikes is where the problem is, because that is the segment of the consumer who is not doing well. Still, all the changes and all the improvement in the economy and the growth and the optimism has not yet trickled down into the pockets of the entry-level customer. So we are still finding that a bit of a struggle. And trying to increase business at that end is like trying to catch a falling knife. So, that is an area where we have held ourselves back. And that is the most underperforming area of our portfolio. We have tended to concentrate our resources, both in terms of management effort and financial resources, in the upper half of the segment, where we believe the recovery is stronger and there is a mood of optimism, and where we can gain market share by investing in products and communication.
The global recession, what happens to your exports?
Yeah, that is ever since March, April, when the Fed made its moves stronger, and you saw the rise in the dollar. There is a twofold impact, particularly on the emerging economies, and that our footprint in exports is largely the emerging economies in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And the two sort of consequences of that were the devaluation, a very, very strong devaluation in almost every single country, which then meant retail prices have to increase, and which then sort of has an impact on the demand. But the second thing, what happens is that people tend to digest it over a period of time. So these are things which have happened before. But the second consequence of this has been the sucking out of the dollars in the system for international trade. So there are many, many countries which are facing a deficit of dollar availability itself, and that has sort of come in the way. So it started somewhere in March, and we had to calibrate our exports to the new normal in retail. And therefore, we went through a severe decline in the period of May to July, August. But where we were sort of reducing our shipments to make sure that the stocks in the system are well managed, the exposures are reduced. So that period is now over, albeit the retails have flattened. They're not declining any longer, but they are lower than, almost about 20% lower than what they were. And our shipments are a tad lower than the retails. So now onwards, as the macroeconomic scenario in these countries improve, which I think may take maybe a couple of quarters, I think we should be able to see the rise in our exports business.
Glad you gave us that clarity. It was much required. But Rakesh, great having you today on ET Now, as always.